2, 1. Be careful where you step. The fragment of silicon may be sharp.
Right. I was expecting something a little more snow, honestly.
Yeah, I was thinking about that in the shower, and I decided to not run out of snow one super fast since we have a lot in the forecast.
Point taken. I'm like, there will be other opportunities, I suspect. Let me see. Let me start by saying a bit of a, maybe not programming note, but a bit of a update on Mac's Indiegogo campaign. It was supposed to launch today. I'm like, and we probably would have made mention of that. Where you could go to, donate and all that stuff. But it's been delayed by a day due to schedule coordination issues, let's say. So hopefully we'll have more on that on the alpha episode tomorrow. But in the meantime, we got actually not a European interview because our guest hails from Canada. It's just, sometimes that happens. Anyway, this week we have Jeffrey. Forgive me if I mispronounce your last name here. I've been trying to figure out how to do it, but I'm not exactly sure. Is it Zukowski?
No, close. It's Zukowski. No worries though. It's a burden of a last name, and no one in the world can pronounce it except for Poland, probably.
Yeah, I'm like, I do have Zukowski of Throwback Entertainment. Yes. All right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Like I said, I've been trying to figure that out for a while now, and I'm like, this is probably like the kind of name I'm not going to get right until I hear it.
Hey man, I always say just think of Mike Wazowski from Monsters Inc. and you pretty much got it.
Fair enough. All right. So for our long-term listeners, the name Throwback Entertainment might sound familiar. That's because about a year ago, we had the company on the show. That is to say, we had another representative last year. I believe that was the president, Robert.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So, considering that you're new to the show, we're going to start things out by getting to know, you. And we like to start by finding out how you got interested in video games in the first place.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So I guess, first of all, I loved video games as a kid. One of my uncles actually had a little bit of part in doing some graphical stuff for the early N64 days. And I used to go over there as a kid and used to see kind of what he did on a daily basis and what he worked on. And that kind of started a little bit of a spark for me for wanting to get into it. I will say that the spark kind of died a little bit later on as I grew up and started going through school, just because I saw that it is a very hard industry to get into. And so, a little bit of my dream kind of started to dim out a little bit. But as I started going through college, I went for web development and database architecture, and then I ended up going for a business as well. And when I graduated, one of my first jobs was a market researcher, and I started working directly within the tech industry, and actually worked on a project which was this kind of suit that kind of mimicked, I guess, if you're playing like Call of Duty, it kind of mimics like gunshots and different stuff. That was through the college university that I went to. That was a project that I worked on too. And so I got to start with that, and then I worked my way as a business analyst. I was still primarily focused on digital media and tech. And then I ended up actually working with Robert as a business analyst. We met up, kind of just pitched ideas back and forth. I found out, what Throwback Entertainment was, what it owned, and what it's looking to do towards the future. Started working with him for a while on that. Then I took a short leave and went to Digital Extremes out in London, Ontario, which makes the free-to-play title Warframe. So I worked on that for a little bit, worked at Digital Extremes for a bit. And then now I'm back at Throwback as Director of Operations. Looking to get these games out that we own and this great IP that we own.
Yeah. Right.
That's how I kind of found my way.
Right. Remember when we had Robert on the program, we talked extensively about the back catalog of IP, and the plans there have been in the making for about a decade now, I think.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate? Some of the issues that Throwback has faced in getting the old Acclaim games out there.
Yeah, sure. So one of the biggest issues is when we acquired the rights to the Acclaim titles, unfortunately there was this massive thing called the recession that happened, which none of us had control, and there was a lot of ramp up work being done in the company. From what I know of, obviously I wasn't in the company in the early days, but essentially, there's a massive ramp up where there's executives coming from some very large video game companies, and then unfortunately the recession happened and it kind of undid that. And I mean, the video game industry during the recession was not the most lively place to be in. Obviously, it kind of solely runs off of disposable income for the majority, and also no one's really looking for investment or for work. Everyone wants to kind of play it safe, right? Nobody really wants to make a new company in the middle of a recession. So that definitely delayed it, and that definitely put a standstill on the company for quite some time. And then for the better part of about a year and a half, 2 years now, we've got a studio out in the Toronto area. We're ramping up these titles, and we're looking to get them ported out onto the current titles and IP that we own. We want to make that accessible to people by any means, whether that be on Steam, Windows Store, GOG, whatever it be. But we're also heavily vested in taking that IP and reimagining it into new titles as well. So I mean, in all, you can pretty much I don't want to use the word blame, but the recession was a huge part in that, and that delayed it by years. To be quite honest with you, it was a difficult time.
Right. I remember that coming up last time, and even before that, Robert mentioned that in the beginning days they still had a lot of Acclaim stuff to deal with,
right, yeah,
legals,
legal stuff, creditors. I mean, when you get the property rights to 180 plus titles, I don't think it's going to be smooth sailing. In regards to, there's probably going to be mounds of paperwork. Also, keep in mind that these are older titles, and with that, there's a lot of paperwork. It's not, hey, let me just send you over our hard drives and stuff like that, right? Like, we're talking hundreds upon hundreds of boxes of paperwork that has to go through, equipment, source code, various things like that. So, when purchasing these things, there's almost, a couple months to a couple years almost where you're just kind of assessing your assets and seeing what you've got, and then, figuring out your business plan there, going forward after that. So there's a lot of ramp up.
Yeah, we've actually talked to other studios who are kind of in the same game, and they've relayed similar stories.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't get things like the source code.
Yes, that is exactly right. Big issue is trying to track it down. There's a lot of horror stories out there where basically, companies go in and buy companies up like Acclaim or other ones, and unfortunately, employees of that company are very attached to their work, and in some cases do snag that work or assets or source code and just kind of run off with it in some cases. And that is a nightmare situation to deal with, because then someone's pretty much holding holding something hostage on you, basically, for your business. So yeah, that's definitely a real world thing that happens more often than you'd think.
Right. Sometimes it's not that I hesitate to say malicious or
no, for sure,
that personal. Like, a lot of the time, source code is lost because it's tossed out, it's deleted.
Yeah.
It's just eliminated from the world.
Yeah, and a lot of times people just want to take a copy of the source code and put up online or something like that, because there's a thought of, hey, this company's going down. I don't know if this company's going to be bought up or if anything's going to happen to it, right? So, hey, I want my work to be at least be seen. So that happens too. But yeah, no, it's not malicious in any way. Most of the time, but it's it does happen.
True. Although sometimes, like, the source code is found.
Yes, in very weird ways. There was I don't know if you guys saw, I believe it was a Kotaku article, but the NBA Jam and Turok source code was found on some indie machines that were auctioned off in the middle of somewhere in New York State. So like stuff still turns up to this day.
Oh yeah.
Which is insane.
Yeah, heard about the Turok stuff. But what's interesting is we know Night Dive Studios, and they actually have the source code to Turok through other methods.
Yep.
Yeah, so yeah. It's just, like, dev kits seem to be a good source for not just, like, source code, but, unreleased games and other artifacts of the industry.
Yeah, for sure. There's just CDs out there, too, around the world, just lying around with different source code, because, they have these auctions, and they just kind of do, like, a lot buy, right, where it's just, hey, I'll give you $1,000, and you get, 2 indie machines and a stack of CDs that no one knows what's on them, right? So there's a lot of that also, and that stuff just turns up by happenstance. People buy the stuff and just try to toy around with these old pieces of technology, and then they go, oh man, holy crap, I found Turok. So that's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah, certainly one way. There are other methods if you don't have the source code. Reverse engineering is one of them.
Yeah, for sure. Reverse engineering, emulation. There's lots of ways to get those titles up, and if you don't have the source code.
Yeah, I suppose tying it back in to your stuff. Like, do you have the source code to all the claim properties that you guys own?
We don't own all the source code to all the products, but we own a large majority of them. Something to keep in mind with Acclaim is a lot of stuff, the IP that we hold wasn't entirely, all PC titles. Majority of what we have is a lot of PS2, a lot of GameCube, Xbox, SNES, and NES titles. Which has made it a little bit more difficult in terms of source, but we have figured that out, and we continue to figure that out with as we start to release these titles on different platforms. But yeah, we have different methods of getting this stuff out, and it's been a learning experience, but I think we've got it pretty nailed down now.
That's good to hear. So before we get into sort of the main event, I want to talk about some other recently released projects that you guys have done. Namely, first of all, the iOS 10 stickers. What are these exactly?
The iOS 10 stickers, so for those who don't have an iPhone, unfortunately you cannot use them, but iOS 10 stickers are essentially just kind of images or stickers that you can place within a kind of a chat, message on the iMessage app or whatever with your friends. And so, as we're, creating assets for these games that are going up on Steam or on GOG and stuff like that, it's another way to have people express, their fandom to some of the titles, and show just some retro, love, I guess, and kind of their their text messaging or their iMessaging, I guess. They've been a pretty good success for us. We've seen a lot of downloads on it, a lot of receptiveness to it, and actually primarily to the retro titles like the Trick Style sticker pack that we did in coordinates with GOG, and the Gladiator pack have actually done very well for us. So, and both those are free. And it's just a way to get the stuff out there, and just if people love the game, hey, they can download it and they have it. It's not a big deal.
Right. And are there any plans for an Android version of this?
Yeah, so there is an Android version of kind of iOS stickers. The name escapes me right now, but yeah, there's a plan back at the studio to chopping away at that and to to possibly bring those in the future to Android devices.
That's good to hear. I don't think anyone on staff here has an iPhone. We're all Android.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
I'm in the market for a smartphone soon, and I don't know which kind I'm going to be getting. So,
given your budget range, I don't think it's going to be an iPhone.
Yeah, unless there's a sharp discount for.
I doubt it.
I'm like,
yeah.
We're looking at a, if you're going to get an iPhone, it's probably going to be like an iPhone 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, off eBay or something even at that, because I don't think the word discount really goes next to an iPhone at any stage.
Yeah, probably not.
I'm like Apple products in general. I think that's one reason why I never took to iDevices and Mac devices. It's just so expensive.
Yes, there's
anyway.
definitely a cost.
Well, anyway, so you got this other thing that was released on the Windows Store recently called Canvas Craft.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a game, or is this like a paint program? What is it?
It's just like a little a puzzle game. So a couple of our developers actually just came up with that on lunch, over a couple lunch breaks, and they just fiddled around with it and just said, hey, let's just put it up as free on the Windows Store. And it's just it's a puzzle kind of game where basically you're matching primary and secondary colors. So it's a match game. So there's one image that could show a couple red squares, couple blue squares, couple green squares, whatever it be, and essentially you're just you're mixing the colors to match that. And it's just a thing that the guys just kind of messed around with and just put it up. Just had fun with it.
Neat. Like.
Yeah.
Is that something that's going to stay exclusive to the Windows Store?
No, I think right now, Canvas Craft was one of those things where, again, it was just a fun little project. It wasn't like we kind of sat down and said, this is the next thing we're doing. And we do that a lot with stuff at the Rec. There's a lot of stuff that the guys work on just to, elevate their skills, and also just some neat stuff that they work on that have helped us along the road bring either some of these titles to Steam or, work on these new ones that we're hoping to bring out soon.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, onward to kind of the main title here, Gladiator: Sword of Vengeance. Right. So where to start with this? So why was this maybe not the first title you guys have put out, but it's the first of the old Acclaim games that has seen a modern release. Why this one in particular?
Well, I think, Gladiator, first of all, I like it. I enjoy the game. It does actually have a pretty decent following online, but it's also, I think it was a good start in terms of, not playing the trump card right away and making sure that, we're hitting, and executing on our launch and making sure that we can do this appropriately. And I think a title to do that, a good test title was definitely Gladiator. It is a fantastic game. It was cool to bring it to the Windows Store first. Obviously, the reasons for that is, obviously there's different reasons as to why you bring it to different platforms first in terms of level of support and relationships with the various companies. But it's also served as a good, I think for us, a learning experience is a good test market in terms of, it's not hitting, it's not going to like Yankee Stadium, right? first with the game versus you know, the ballpark in your hometown, right? So it's a good way of putting the title out there, testing it, making sure everything works appropriately, making sure people are hearing about it, and then you know, going to the big guy, which would be on Steam. And so, you know, that's primarily the reason why we worked on that. It was a title that, you know, from a technical standpoint, we knew we could get out there. And you know, in terms of getting it out on in the market, you know, it was one that, hey, you know, we're new to doing that. This is the first shot at going at it. So, you know, let's make sure we've got all our ducks in a row basically before we get it out there on the big guy.
Right. I recall some other reasons from Robert last year, like Throwback is actually very invested in like cloud applications.
No. Yes. Yes. Sorry. That also is the other technical aspect to it with the Azure integration, as to why, you know, it had went to Windows Store first. You know, that was an agreement towards the Azure platform. But yeah, sorry about that. Thank you for reminding me about that.
It's like I remember the game being like announced at a Microsoft Cloud conference.
Yeah, at Build in Chicago.
So, and for the record, the game is if you buy it, say for the Windows 10 store, you can play it for the Xbox One and Windows Phone, correct?
No, it's only on PC right now for the Windows Store. That's it. You know, there's hope to bring the support to the phone and to the Xbox One in the future, and we'll look to do that. But right now on Windows Store, it's only a PC, and you know, same for Steam, only PC.
I see. Now, first, towards the Windows Store version, that's been out since last December, I believe. And
yeah, there was an original copy that went up. That was the RT version. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you know, Windows had jumped around a lot between RT and now UWP. And so when they did that jump, there was some technical stuff, and basically the game was updated and put out at a different release date on Windows Store, which was this year, in this current year, or just before New Year. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I recall we reviewed the game in January.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if you I sent you the review. I don't know if you ever listened to it.
Yep. Yeah, I listened to it. I heard it. Yeah, I listened to all you guys. You guys were talking about the UWP platform as a whole. And yeah, I heard all that stuff too.
I won't lie, we found it to be an average game at best, you know, and
yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing, right? It is an older title. And you know, it does have those notes of you know, the God of War, like you guys have been talking about. Obviously, God of War came out after it. With some team members that were originally on Gladiator ended up going to God of War, and you can kind of see those notes in God of War, how they kind of cross over the different products. But it's I think
a lot of the reason it looked average is just because of how much that formula has been elaborated upon since it originally came out.
Well, for sure.
And it's also, it's a PlayStation 2 title. Did you guys do any like remastering to the game, or you know, was it released kind of as it was back in say 2004, 2003 when the game came out?
There's some bug fixes done to it, and you know, that's a major point I want to bring up also, is that when we're releasing these titles for future release on Steam and so on. You know, if there were bugs in the past, like game-breaking bugs, or just, you know, annoying bugs that basically hurt the review of the title or kind of, you know, tarnish the overall feel of the title, that's something that we do look out to fix if possible, right? I mean, since this is difficult to you know, scour through the source code and try to figure out what's doing what, but you know, we want to fix those bugs going forward. But for Gladiator, we, I mean, it can go all the way up to 1080p. The lighting was fixed on a bit, and the textures were bumped up a bit, and there were some bugs that were fixed also for Gladiator. So we did do some changes to it, and you know, even with we just announced Trick Style coming out, February 21st on Steam, and that's already available right now on GOG. But for Trick Style, we're having that on Steam, and that's got full controller support right out the gate, and it's we're also going to be including a soundtrack with that, like the original soundtrack, also on that on Steam, as well as I'm hoping to get the original manual and be able to put that in also, just for the purpose of some collectors out there to like to see that stuff, or some guys who really like gaming history like to see that stuff. So we're always looking to going forward, I personally am always looking to make sure how can we put as much as possible with these old titles that originally accompanied them. So if I can put the soundtrack out with them and bundle it with them and give you that, I want to do that. And same with the old manuals and all that stuff. Even though there's old art, as we start to start this process of putting these titles out, that's something that Throwback really wants to do.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. And we're also hoping that we can review Trick Style when it hits Steam.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we usually like reviewing games on Steam because it's the most hassle-free platform out there.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's definitely I think obviously there's always some stuff to that anyone can work on, but I think right now Steam's kind of the the guy that everyone else's gaming platform should pretty much be aiming for, right, and striving for. But yeah, I love Steam.
Yeah. It's, how do I put this? No matter what your stance on Steam as or Valve is, it's it's the place to be as far as digital distribution on the PC goes.
Yep.
With some very specific exceptions that I can think of, like Minecraft or Blizzard titles. Like
yeah, exactly.
On the other hand, there's a lot of traffic on Steam these days.
Yes.
And, so the question beckons: how do you get your games out there to the populace of Steam? How do they get to notice Gladiator or Trick Style?
So for Gladiator, we had a coming soon page up there for just a couple of days, just before launch, and I can obviously see the numbers as to the users visiting that coming soon page, or kind of I guess pre-ordering or wish listing it, right? And organically, a lot of people found it. A lot of people found it through either Facebook or social media, or our press releases on Game Sutra and stuff like that. But people are generally looking for these titles constantly, which was a little bit stunning to me at first. When I started working with this IP library, I kind of thought, okay, cool, like older games. Like I understand that classic titles and some retro titles are pretty hot right now. I mean, the NES classic that came out definitely justifies the market, but like even the Trick Style one that's out right now, there's a coming soon page, and like the first day that it was up there for the coming soon page, there's already a comment like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it, like 20 years later pretty much, and the game's gonna be available on Steam. Like, awesome, thank you so much. And there's comments like that on Gladiator, like, what, no way. And Gladiators seems to be pretty popular title out in Germany. There's a lot of German fans of Gladiator Sword of Vengeance, and I don't know if that's because it's an uncut version for Germany, as I don't know if you guys know the sensory rights of Germany. Yeah. So
I'm generally aware of what Germany does.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that it befell Gladiator. Like they Germany in general doesn't like human deaths in video games.
Yeah.
I mean, famously in another acclaimed, the Turok, the German version changed all the enemies to robots. The humans.
Yeah, there's no humans. No. So it's done pretty well in Western Europe, and it's doing well in North America. And like I said, hey, the fans are finding the page, with our help or without our help, and they're liking it. So that gives us a definite that makes us happy back at the studio. Everyone's pretty pumped up that, when we release these titles, that people are looking for these and are looking to have these in their, the Steam library. And Gladiator has achievements, cards, cloud save, all that jazz, all the stuff that we could possibly put into it. They appreciate that also.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm like, and so in regards to Gladiator and Trick Style, are there any plans to bring the titles to consoles or mobile devices?
I think so. The only one that could ever really go to mobile out of between those two is, in my mind, would be the Gladiator. I think Trick Style is just a little bit too crazy to probably put on mobile in terms of the gameplay. Now, in terms of bringing them to console, hey, we're always looking to bring them out to as many people as we can. That's something that we hopefully do look forward to do in the future. But yeah, in terms of mobile, Gladiator is the only one that I could possibly see with gameplay as being a good mobile title.
Yeah, I remember Robert mentioning that he thought Gladiator's gameplay would mesh well with a touch device, because
yeah.
It is pretty simple stuff, and
yep.
Especially like bringing a PlayStation 2 title to a mobile device. I've seen it done. It's not pretty. It can be done, but you either have to get used to virtual D-pads, virtual buttons, or you have to have a really expensive Bluetooth controller.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, like, that's the thing, right? Is I think for us at Throwback, we're really focused on it's one thing to put these titles out and make them available on Steam, but like I said, if it's possible to bring them to console, that's great. But we're focused on console and Steam going forward. We don't really have a focus on mobile. If we can bring something to mobile and it makes sense from a business standpoint for us and it's going to play well, then cool. But if it's going to be, rough around the edges on an iPhone, then, I'm probably not going to want to put it out if it's not going to work too well. So, yeah.
I can see the logic there.
Yeah.
This is a question we've been asking various developers and publishers because it's kind of the hot topic going on, at least one of them. What are your thoughts on the Nintendo Switch?
Okay. I really like it. I think it's got a lot of, I think it's gotten a lot of, not bad press. It's got kind of like mixed, weird press, I feel. Like in all the stuff that I've read and all the videos I've watched, it's either kind of people have really, really not liked it or people have really loved it. I, for one, I am a huge Nintendo fan, but I don't let the Nintendo shades go over my eyes when I see a new product release. I think they could have done a little bit better of a job, kind of explain the technical specs of it for developers. I think a lot of developers were kind of just sat there and were like, okay, cool. So like, what is it? What's in it? What does it run? What can I use for it? Can I use Unreal for it? Can I use this for it? Right. And like, I can read an IGN article that says, hey, it has Unreal support, but until it comes from the mouth of, an account manager or whoever at Nintendo, it doesn't really mean much to me, right? Until I hear it from actually Nintendo. So I feel like the technical specs could have done a better job. I'm looking forward to the fact that, it is a home console, but you can still pick it up and, on the go play Zelda. That's probably what I'm most excited for. I do like the Joy-Cons. I think that the pricing for the Joy-Cons and the other accessories are a little high. And I don't fully understand the reasoning behind the online kind of application that you have to run on like a phone or a tablet or whatever external from the actual device in order to do, online communication with your friends.
I can actually explain that because Nintendo has actually offered up an explanation for that. It's because it's because the Switch is a console handheld hybrid. They figured, you might have your Switch, out in the field, and so they figured the best way to have voice chat was through a smartphone app.
Use 3G.
Yeah, this
Okay,
is their
gotcha.
thought process. It's like I'm still not sure what the Switch itself.
Yeah.
But this is what Nintendo has said.
Right. Okay. So they basically, they're just saying, hey, you basically tether. So if I want to play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe right against my friends, I'm basically tethering to my smartphone to get the 3G, right? And then I'm also using the VoIP or whatever, right, on my phone in order to
Probably something like
talk
that,
to my friends. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. I think that's a decent reasoning. Yeah. It's all right. I can see why they didn't put 3G into it. It was probably because the product would have costed a lot, right? Like, if they sat there and said, "Hey, this one's 3G capable,"
I'm reminded of the Vita.
yeah, exactly. So there you go, right? Like, they put that in, and boom, now it's not $299 or $399, whatever it is. It's like $450 or whatever, because you have to constitute that chip in it. But yeah,
it's very possible. And as far as like the Joy-Cons being so expensive, that's because of all the tech in it.
Yeah, I get that. It's more just the controller. Like, the standalone controller is like $80.
Yeah.
Like the Pro controller or whatever.
Yeah.
I do think that's a little high, but no, the Joy-Cons are cool. It is, when it first came out, like, I watched the press release. I don't know if you guys watched it like live or whatever. The press conference live. Yeah. Oh, awesome. But yeah, no, I like, it's got the special rumble or whatever, where you can feel like the ice cubes and glass demo that they had, and then the it's also got the infrared sensor. So, but again, I'd like to see how developers are going to use that, if it's going to be something that people actually utilize, or beyond just launch titles, right? Like the Wii U is an example, like that Zombie or whatever it was that I think Ubisoft made. Yeah, so they made that game, and they utilized the touchpad for that, and then any game after that was just kind of like meh, whatever. So I don't know if developers are just sick of
I think
integrating stuff, but yeah,
that might be down to the individual developer. Like,
yeah.
We had a developer on a few weeks ago who was really enthusiastic about the Switch and the HD Rumble in particular.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I said, I think it depends on what you're doing and what you're aiming for. I gotta admit, I don't know exactly, because in regards to like the specs and everything, everything's currently under lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like Nintendo hasn't really communicated the specs with the public. I'm pretty sure like developers know, but they're under NDA.
Yes.
And also, we'll know when iFixit pulls it apart.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like,
Yeah.
Like apparently some documents about not the final version of the Switch, but a prototype dev kit leaked the other day, I think.
Oh wow.
Like, but it's like, yeah, it's like at some point when the system launches, we will know what it's capable of publicly. Now, like in regards to the Switch, could you see a LED or a trick style on the system?
Oh, for sure. I mean, as much as I just said I didn't understand those things about the Switch, I am absolutely enthusiastic about it. I'm loving that Nintendo's actually still going forward and making consoles, and still in the game with it. And I think that this one's going to be pretty well received. But yeah, I mean, if we can bring Gladiator and Trick Style to that system, and allow more people to play it and try it out, then absolutely. And when we find out more stuff about Virtual Console information regarding the Switch, some more details about it, that's something we'll also look into as well, because there's a platform I'd love to be on.
That's a very good question, because I think out of everything surrounding the Switch, like the Virtual Console stuff is kind of the murkiest right now. Like, outside of NES and Super NES games, online enabled, no less. We haven't heard anything about the Virtual Console. Like there have been some rumblings like there's apparently going to be a GameCube virtual console for the Switch, but I'm like, indicators doesn't look like it's going to be at launch.
No, and that's the thing too, right? Is like it's just, I like as a developer, I don't know what is, totally at launch and what's still yet to be announced, right? Like there could be a lot of things. Like the UI for the Switch wasn't even shown at the press conference, and I found out later on about it, and I was really scared and worried about it. I was like, oh wow, like is there a UI to this thing?
Yeah.
Like what does it look like? And so I finally found out what it looks like, which is great. But there's definitely some missing points there, and I think Nintendo will figure it out.
Like I said, there seems to be there's like two kinds of developers out there right now. There's the Nintendo favored, the people who are working with Nintendo already. Like there's quite a few indie games announced for the system, for example, and like I think I first saw the UI out of a post from Nicholas, for example. Like so, it's like there are the developers that are working with Nintendo right now, and then there's kind of like everybody else. Like because I know like there are developers and publishers who want more information, who want to get their hands on a dev kit, but can't right now because Nintendo's apparently being selected, or they're not at the capacity yet to like have more dev kits for a wider development or whatever it is. It's like they're not at that stage yet.
Yeah. Well, also, they might be short on some dev kits, right? Because sometimes dev kits have different, different, I guess, outlays to them. Like they kind of, one might support Unity, one might support Unreal, right? For the differences in dev kits, so they might be short on one SKU of those dev kits for developers as well. But it's a thing. I think. Well, one thing I will say about it is I do like how it's not region locked. I think that's fantastic for the system. But also, like the two developers, I think something to always keep in mind with Nintendo is that at the same time Nintendo releases this console, and a lot of people are kind of like, oh, it's kind of murky as to what's on it and what the features are, and there's stuff still rolling out about it. But something that Nintendo's good at that Sony and Microsoft still have to catch up on is that family-friendly title, and that's something that Sony and Microsoft both want. They want that market, and they have yet to kind of figure it out. And I don't know if that's just because of the consoles that they have and kind of the UI, or it's kind of the stigma of those consoles having the Call of Duties and the
viewed
the
as the
titles.
dude bro consoles and not the family friendly consoles.
Yeah, and I mean the only thing that's going to fix that, right, is bringing family friendly title games to the Xbox and PS4, and one that I'm looking forward to is Ukulele. But
I think the last one Microsoft had was Viva Pinata.
You can count the Rare Replay that they just brought back, but even some of those titles are kind of
In terms of family friendliness, Sony's actually a lot better than people give them credit for. Like they've got a ton of family friendly stuff, like say Ratchet and Clank, and Jack and Daxter, and going all the way back to like publishing Spyro and Crash Bandicoot. It's just nobody like really remembers those in comparisons to like the Killzones and God of Wars.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Microsoft really didn't achieve success in the family-friendly arena until the Kinect. And they had all those Kinect games, and kind of went away when Kinect went away.
Back into the closet.
Yeah, and I mean, thanks for bringing up the Spyro and Crash Bandicoot stuff. You're absolutely right about that with the PlayStation 1 and then most of the PlayStation 2 also saw quite a fair bit of family titles. But I think they both kind of ran away with this kind of FPS, more mature title stuff on both systems. And to this day, right now, it is a little bit like you can point to Ratchet and Clank, but when the title is Up Your Arsenal, like it kind of discredits and discounts the parent going and buying the PlayStation, for their kid when the title of the game is Up Your Arsenal, right, which is clearly a nod to something else. But I mean,
I think that was rated T for teen.
Yeah, no, for sure. But like that's the thing. think Nintendo has to stay in. Like I don't want to be in an industry where there's no Nintendo, because I think Nintendo brings back to that, hey, easy to play but hard to master in terms of their games. And they most of their titles, beyond Zelda, don't have like the most elaborate crazy story, but like every Mario title, I've pretty much had fun with every single Mario title that's ever come out. I've never had an issue with it. And most of the games, the games never really have bugs. Maybe they're not aesthetically, to the same level as PlayStation or Xbox, but they're definitely, they're just good games. Like they're just all around good games generally that comes out on there. And then obviously you get a lot of, you get the days of Wii and Wii U where you get that, the kind of the bloatware where it's just kind of like, hey, let's just throw, a no-name Wii Sports on the Wii. Like let's recreate Wii Sports and put it up. But, that was companies unfortunately just jumping on and trying to get a piece of the pie, right? So.
Sometimes it was successful, sometimes it wasn't. Like,
yes.
Like Carnival Games comes to mind.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
A pretty terrible mini game collection, but it sold like millions. But that was kind of like in that period of time when the Wii shovelware was just red hot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And like, I mean, even look at the love for peripherals for the Wii and the Wii U, right? Like you had the U-Draw tablet, you had like baseball bat attachments and stuff like that, and it was just, it was just flooded with stuff where the consumer just sat there and went like, okay, this is getting ridiculous.
Yeah,
and
we
then,
have a box of Wii Mote add-on things downstairs that we got at Target. They were going out of business.
Right, but that's the issue, right? Is that none of that is Nintendo's fault, which is what sucks the most, because it's just the people throwing out the baseball bats. Like I think there was boxing glove attachments too, where you could like put your Wii Motes in the boxing gloves, but like none of this was Nintendo licensed, right? This is all like no name third party stuff or whatever, and that I count that as being basically the killer of any peripheral. I hate to use the word gimmicky stuff, but any kind of like Connect or motion controlled stuff instead. Like I think it really killed it. Just them opening the gates.
Yeah. I think it's one reason. I think the other reason was there was really nowhere to go with motion controls at that stage. Now, really all possibilities had been explored either via Wiimote or Kinect, at least until virtual reality hit the scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and and I also think another reason too is when developers were creating those games with the Wiimote, like you said, from a technology standpoint, there wasn't a ton you could do in differentiation from different titles with the motion controls. So what you end up getting is you get 5 games that have the same controls, right? So no one could really differentiate their game. The only difference was there's a different character on the screen and you're kind of doing the same motion, right? So it becomes repetitive.
Yeah. Well, the other problem was, the motion controls end up replacing, traditional button presses.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that made for a lot of awkward ports. And getting turned into basically the human D-pad.
Yeah, absolutely. The human D-pad.
using a waggle as another button type thing is not necessarily always bad, but when you like give up things that would be easier to do with just a button, that doesn't help anything.
Yeah, it's just complicating it.
At any rate, so the future. I'm not sure how much you can talk about this, but can you tell us anything about what you have in store, in terms of releases, aside from like Trick Style on Steam?
Yeah, sure. So, like I had mentioned a little bit, I think towards the start of the show, our main focus is creating, reimaginations of these titles, not remasters, completely reimaginations of some of the beloved IP that we own, and bringing it to consoles. And that we're working on one right now, and that will come out on a console. I can't tell you the name. I can't tell you genre, nothing like that.
Yeah, well, for a bit of a hint for those who might be listening, I recall Robert mentioning this last year. It's going to be a reimagining of a beloved N64 title.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and that will come out on consoles. So we're focused on console gaming going forward as a company, but we do have a almost a duty to bring out these older titles that we have and bring them to fans on Steam, and make sure that when we're bringing them out, we're not just lazily throwing up a port on Steam, like, hey, here you go, here's Trick Style. It's like, no, here's Trick Style. Here's we put in added controller support. We put the trading cards in. It's got Steam Cloud. It's got the soundtrack. Here's some original art from it, and here's the original manual from it. It's not like we don't want to just throw stuff at people. I want to make sure that we take time and that we, give what we can back to the fans. These guys have been waiting for quite some time, and a lot of people, can't find these games, or if you do, you have to find them on eBay and buy them for like $20 or $30 in the box, right? So it's something that I want to bring back to the fans, and we are doing a very good job at it, and we're doing it in a very timely manner where we'll be seeing numerous titles coming onto Steam over the next coming months.
Like, can you give us a number?
I could tell you in the next couple months, definitely above 4 or 5 titles.
Oh,
so like our goal is just to keep a steady stream as a company and keep releasing these out when we can. Obviously, the nature of it, of the product that we're working with, there's technical hurdles, right? In terms of, like you had stated before, reverse engineering or, trying to figure out the source code. But hey, we're working around the clock to try and get these out. And we got a great team back at the studio that really knows what they're doing and are actually very passionate about all these titles.
Right. And are you going to keep releasing games for GOG and Windows Store as well?
Yeah, I mean, we'll keep partnering with GOG. They're a good partner of ours, and we'll keep working with Windows Store as we see fit. With all 3 of those, Steam, Windows Store, and GOG, we'll encompass them in some sort of way. Whether it be someone gets the game a little bit later than the other one, or whatever it be. We will work with those 3 partners.
That's good to hear. Well, I think that's about it from my end. I'll see if my cohorts have any last questions for you.
I don't have anything.
Alex?
I think we've covered most of the stuff I was curious about.
So, did we cover anything that, anyway. Okay, I guess we are good.
Cool.
Right, Jeff, I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us today. We look forward to reviewing Trick Style in the next weeks, and we look forward to having you on the program again when more of these games are out, and we can talk about them.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. And as stuff gets released more and more, I'd love to come back on the show and keep discussing with you guys.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. Be sure to join us for our alpha episode happening Wednesday tomorrow as we welcome David Autry of New Bloods Interactive. We're going to be talking about the retro-styled FPS, Dusk. I had previously mentioned it was Strafe. I got my retro-styled FPSs confused there. My apologies, but I'm looking forward to that. Right, and MSP is still slated to happen tomorrow, as well as the Indiegogo campaign. So more on that after Fragments. And until such time, I wish you good gaming.